Well, Dorna, thank you for joining us today to talk about Documate. And to get started, could you just talk through like you have like this great story of how you started your company. So if you could just tell us about how you got started, tell us about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Chad. Let me just give you a brief overview of what Documate is. Documate is a no-code document automation platform that allows you to build not only internal document automation, so automating your PDF or Word document
Mhm.
sets, but also to create client-facing legal tools. And the way that we landed here is that I used to be a lawyer, and our whole team is made up of lawyers and engineers. And originally, we actually wanted to build a very specific client-facing tool that I wanted to use within my practice. So we launched that. It was something in the domestic violence arena, and realized that there were so many other lawyers who wanted to build similar tools. They wanted to basically build like a TurboTax for law. So
Right.
we thought, instead of us going out and researching the law and then our engineers sitting down and building out all the tools, why not empower the lawyers to build what they want to do? And so that's exactly what Documate is now. It's you get on there without hiring a software developer. Hopefully you can build pretty much everything you want, from document automation all the way through full-fledged legal product.
Cool. And so that's you use the term no code, which is fun, and it's kind of this term of art that's now, I don't know if that's too strong of a label, but like, can you explain that more? Like, what skill level do you need to have to be able to kind of get into, what like no code usage?
Yeah, so I actually just got an email from a client this morning who claims to be very old. I'm not going to name his age, but he basically said, if I can do it, anyone can.
Got it.
So he's not a developer. He's been a lawyer for his whole life. So you should be able to get onto our platform and use it without knowing anything about coding or technology. All you really need is the legal knowledge inside of your brain and what you want the end product to look like.
Got it.
Historically, a lot of these tools that did document automation have been very code heavy. You need to learn a ton of complex syntax to actually be able to do anything in the system. And
Got
so
it.
we want to empower you to do that without knowing any of that.
Cool. And so another phrase you use, client-facing tools. I mean, I get what that means, but could you like maybe explain the significance of that, or like what some examples of those would be?
Definitely. So another thing that document automation has been historically is an internal tool. So
Okay.
as a firm, you as the attorney or your paralegals or your staff, they can all get onto a lot of the document automation platforms, including Documate, enter data, and then at the end of that process have it spit out all their documents exactly as they want them to. What we have kind of introduced is more client facing aspects, meaning that you don't need to actually enter all of the data in house. You can send these workflows out to your clients. Clients can enter that data, and then that can come back to you and you can finalize and finish those documents. So that becomes really useful for anything that a client could fill out. It might not be as useful if you're asking them complex tax questions, but it's
Right.
really useful if you're asking them for all their children and all the trustees they want to add to a will, or any of that information that they have inside of their brains.
So it's practically a form that that the customer in a no code environment creates a form that their client can fill out the information, and then that pushes it into a Word document or a PDF document.
Exactly. And that form, that web form, the questionnaire that's client
Yeah.
facing, that can be pretty complex. You can add all kinds of branching logic and decision trees to show the
Okay.
client certain questions depending on how they've answered prior questions.
Got it. So if you're like, so I'm thinking of kind of like a use case for it. So if I'm a business lawyer, for example, when you are, let's say somebody's starting a new business, and that's one of those areas where you need to be cost effective, because entrepreneurs are starting a new business, don't have a ton of money to spend on legal fees often, and so this is something where you could basically standardize or automate the onboarding of new business clients. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely. And it also allows you as a lawyer to come up with new business models. So, whereas previously, if you were going to draft all those documents in house, enter all of the client's information in house, you would need to charge them a specific hourly rate or, a higher
Right.
rate. Now you can put this in front of them and you kind of have a little bit more predictability on how long each of these different document sets are going to take. And as a result, you may be able to either lower your price or provide a different type of pricing structure or keep charging the same price and just make more money.
Right. That's true. Efficiency is on your end. So
Yes.
that's cool. And then, you mentioned from a client facing standpoint where you could send them a link to an interview or to answer the questions. Are thinking of different use cases, like are any of your Documate customers like embedding forms and websites, things like that for clients?
Yes, definitely. So, in terms of the client facing aspects, I would say there are kind of a few different ways that people use it. One is for client intake. So, you're just gathering the information. You might just send them a link to the client intake. And then you may also be providing it as either a free tool that is sort of like a marketing tool for your firm, that's a lead generating
Right.
tool, or you may be using it as a revenue generating tool.
Right.
So, for example, we have a client who has a they're an estate planning client, and they have a web form that they've embedded inside of their website, and it allows someone to go through and generate a personal property memorandum for free. And so
Yeah.
obviously they're banking on that in the future, leading to those people generating documents, loving
Right.
their site, and coming back for the more complex documents. So that's one way, more lead generating, more of a marketing tool. Second would be kind of the full TurboTax model where you're actually charging them. You have different tiers of service, and they pay you on the site, and you're generating revenue from the tool itself as opposed to a marketing tool.
Cool. Got it. So it's a like very like customizable concept as far as what you want to do with it. How so one of the hangups I could see is that, I am, a solo or whatever lawyer wants to use something like this. Like, how do they get creative? Like, and is this like, are these conversations you have with them, like where people are like, I want to automate my documents? Like, how do they get started? Because I know that's an issue that is a hang up for a lot of folks where it's like the sheer concept of say, okay, I'm a family law lawyer, and I know that when I onboard a client, I gather all this information. Maybe they use an online form already and push it to a spreadsheet, or they're manually creating. I know some, well, maybe not anymore, but like this time last year, whatever date, yeah, it's February, mid-February. So people are still coming to the office and writing on forms in hand and gathering that information and putting it like, what's the best way for people to like start trying to figure out like, how do I like, how do I automate this part of my practice?
Yeah, what's interesting is that in all of the examples that you just mentioned right now, no matter how seemingly antiquated it is, having someone write things on a piece of paper, there is some form of process that already exists. And so all you
Right.
need to do is optimize and automate that. So if you had some sort of intake form that you were using and handing to people out in the waiting room, that should be the framework for what you build as your questionnaire. And in your head where that information is going to go into the
Right.
documents. So it's all just about taking your current processes and kind of reflecting on them and putting them into writing and putting them into a real platform.
Cool. And in Documate's cloud based, right? So we're not storing
Yes.
things locally.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Um,
And that also allows, from the client facing aspect, that allows clients to also store their information for later. So, for example, if you have a client, you're gathering a bunch of information about them for a family law case, they don't have to fill that all out today. They can fill part of
got
it
it.
out today, create a login, finish it next week.
And I know one of the things I've seen before where it's that you have create one document. So let's say you do the initial documents for a family law case to file for a divorce. That information is going to be used not just from the initial petition, but also in things like shared parenting plans or the final decree. Like, does the information get saved and then you can use it later?
Yes. So there are a few different ways you can do that. The main way is we have a feature called Data Manager, and that stores all that data. So you can reuse that in future document sets. You can also, push that data out to other sources. So you can push it out
Got it.
to Google Sheets and do whatever you want with it. So there are, the main feature would be Data Manager, but there are lots of other ways you can get that data out and reuse it as well.
Cool. Very good. So thinking about use cases, like what is like the most simple version of like, documenting that somebody's doing that you can think of, like the most basic concept?
Probably the most basic would be just like an engagement letter or even something shorter, like an offer letter, because that's just one set of questions, one document usually, and maybe a little bit of conditional logic that you've added into your document. So that mean I can set up an offer letter with you in like 10 minutes
Got it.
or less. But really the power of Documate comes from the more complex documents. But if you know how to set up, and going back to kind of the no code question, if you know how to set up something like an offer letter, you know how to set up your full set of divorce documents, because it's all using those same building blocks of filling out fields that are formatted inside of the document, adding conditional logic for specific clauses, and then doing calculations, whether they're repeat or whether they are numerical or date calculations, and then also lists of items like children or trustees.
Got it. Makes sense. So let's flip it to the other end. Like, what's the most complex thing you can think of somebody's doing that's
I would
interesting?
say I think the most complex one that I've seen, and I don't see everything. It's just when people tell me about what
Yeah,
they're
right.
working on.
Right.
But we have a client who's doing transfer pricing. I didn't even know what that was in terms of an area of law before I met him, and he serves international clients. And most of his clients are like accounting firms and financial institutions. And so his documents just have these insane calculations in them, like this variable to the power of this variable, like all kinds of amortization
Right.
schedules. And so you can get very complicated in terms of your formulas, your logic, and all of that.
Got it. Now, did he do that himself internally in the firm?
He did actually, yes.
Okay.
I think he
Interesting.
charges like $1,000 an hour for his billable rate, but he did all of his automation work himself. So
Got it. Interesting. So, I mean, from like the exercise of delegation within a firm. So, like, if, not everybody is going to, like, that takes time. So, if you want to do more complex things, like, not everybody, even if it's easy and no code, not everybody's going to want to do it. Is that fair? Like, do it on their own?
yes. So I would say most of our clients set things up on their own, at least within their
Okay.
firm. So it might be either the attorney or they might give it to their paralegal or someone who knows enough about the
Mhm.
documents to be able to set it up, or just has enough instruction within templates. Any template that you have that has brackets and highlighted portions and footnotes will probably
Right.
give a good amount of instruction to your paralegal or your staff. But then we also have people who we call documators, who we can refer our clients to. And what our documators are they are completely vetted by us. They've worked with lots of our clients to automate different areas of law. They're either usually have had a lot of experience in the law, whether there's a paralegal at a firm, or some of them are lawyers. Some of them are just legal professionals and have worked with a lot of automation clients, and they can set everything up for you. So no matter how much time
Got it.
you have, we kind of have a solution for you.
And those aren't employees of Documate. They're separate. Like, you hire them separate. Is that fair?
Yes, we refer them to our clients, so they're contractors, and the relationship that our clients have with them is independent. Although
Okay.
we're there for you. So if you have any problems, you can always come to us. But we don't take a cut of any of that either. So that ensures that the cost of those automation specialists is also really cost effective.
Got it. Okay, cool. Um, No, that's great. Is there anything else we haven't talked about as far as like how lawyers are using Documate that would be helpful for folks to know about?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say it's sort of those three ways: internal automation, client intake, and then full-fledged legal product. And a lot of times people come in the door wanting to just do the document automation, and document automation becomes like the gateway drug to having your own tech company. So you may
Right.
get
Yeah,
more
I
and
could
more
see that.
ideas. And then I guess
Right.
one other thing I'd mention that isn't used as much, but we love when people do this, is you don't actually have to generate documents at the end of the process. So because of all the logic that you can add inside of different workflows, you can build an expert system as well. So you can build something that generates a decision, and maybe not necessarily, maybe the decision is you're not the right client for our firm, or you are not eligible for a particular something. um,
Right.
that's also something you can do. So it doesn't necessarily need to generate documents, but for lawyers, the documents are the main use case.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. That whole work product issue. Cool. So one thing that, is we're recording this in mid-February 2021. The year, we turned into 2021 and everything went back to normal in life and nothing's weird or everything's still weird. But um, really interested in seeing how companies have adjusted. You we're about a year into the pandemic at this point, and it's still causing, different changes within people's, personal lives and business world. So what's been happening with Documate over the past year that you've seen that how the business has adjusted and grown?
Yeah. So one thing I'll say is that our clients have done an incredible job in serving the public in this past year with all kinds of legal needs that come up. So, for example, we have one of our clients built a COVID-19 eviction defense platform,
Hmm.
which allows anyone who is, and it's they built that for free. We also have a lot of legal aid organizations who work with us on our platform, who have built a lot of tools for the public for free. And the COVID-19 eviction tool, what it does is it allows you to create and file a declaration with your landlord that is compliant with the CDC moratorium rules and any other local rules that you may have to allow you to
Yeah.
stay inside of your house if you can't pay rent. So that's been really cool. We've loved seeing what they've built for the public. But internally for us, we've seen sort of two big trends that have come out of everyone going remote. One has been client collaboration. So obviously we're now having to, the old ways we
Right.
worked before March of 2020 have been completely thrown out the door. So we need to find new ways to meet with our clients. That paper form that you mentioned is no
Hmm.
longer going to be
Right.
feasible. So we've found that a lot of people are using Documate for that sort of client collaboration and data transfer. Within your Documate workflows, you can also put all kinds of videos and images. And so you can add a little bit more of a personal touch to what you build and put out there on your website. So that's one. And the second I would say is that given that lawyers are changing the way they work, they're also thinking about alternative business models. So
Hmm.
how can I provide the service that I was providing previously, but to more consumers, or to maybe a consumer that is cash strapped? So that's where flat fees, subscription services, all of that can be kind of enabled by a tool like ours has been on the rise.
Very
So
cool.
we've been seeing that as well.
Well, that's fun. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I know I think it was Jack Newton from Clio that right when this all was starting, it's like, the legal profession would move like 10 years in the future, 10, in 10 days or whatever. I'm butchering some quote as if it's famous at this point. And the, but yeah, like this kind of stuff, like document automation and or tools surrounding it before felt like it was, well, the bar offers it, so we can use that for forms or it was just crazy expensive. And not, I mean, the How do you do your pricing for Documate?
Yeah, so our pricing is based on the builder seat. So it actually ends up being very affordable because it's whoever's building it within your firm is the person who's paying. We do have a free trial as well. And so people can sign up and use it and make sure they love it before they sign up. And our lowest tier starts at $83 a month. So, pretty affordable. And then we also have 7-day week customer support with that. So we really want to make sure that our clients are successful, and once they're able to build a workflow and put it out into the world, usually then you kind of sit back and you watch it kind of pay dividends for your firm, whether that's within efficiency or actual revenue.
Great. Very cool. Well, I really appreciate your time, Dorna. We'll put this in the comments as well, or in the text below, but what's the best way for people to get in contact with you
Yeah,
if they
so
want to
they
reach out?
can, yeah, definitely. So they can reach me at Dorna, Dorna at documate.org or documate.org, or at Documate Law is our Twitter handle.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dorna. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chad.